Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I am Laura Tempest Zakroff, and this morning, or this time in space, this liminal space we're in, we are going to talk about sigils and shapes for movement and meditation. So I think this is a great way to start off your day or perhaps even end your day. So let's get in. I have a little bit of a tiny slide presentation, just because, images are fun, right? Though we were having a little bit of fun with the the way the program was converting it. So if you aren't familiar with me, I am an artist, author, and witch based in New England. I have been practicing now for, I guess we're going on almost 30 years. So it's been a hot minute. And if you don't know, I have a fairly decent sized catalog with Llewellyn. So what we're focusing on today kind of is more based on Sigil Witchery, which came out in 2018, Visual Alchemy, which came out, I think, last year before, whatever, what is time, and the Sigil Witchery Oracle, which comes out this October. But you can check out the other works and other things that I do on my website, lauratempestzakroff.com, and find me on Instagram, all that good stuff. You know how to find me. Just spell my name correctly and you'll find me. Isn't that amazing? It's magic. But I'm not only just an artist and an author, I am also a dancer. I've been a myth-based performer for also a very long time. And I like to bring all of these things together, right? To magic, art, and movement. I feel that they're all intrinsically connected. And before anybody panics, because I hear, if I had $1 for every time I heard this, I'm not an artist, I'm not a dancer. Everybody can access art and everybody can access movement. Movement does not have to be a choreography or a complicated dance. It can simply be your breath, right? Recognizing breath within your body, being able to just move your shoulders or your feet or your fingers, whatever you are able and capable of doing. You can do it lying down, sitting, standing, right? All of this, right? You're going to be able to do what we're going to cover today. So don't panic, everybody. We got this. So we can do some movement. I want to talk to you first, though, about, well, what is a sigil? All right, so in the realm of sigil witchery, right, basically a sigil is a mark that has been made by human beings, whether that's carved, etched, drawn, danced, licked, painted, right, that is believed to have magical properties. So a symbol or a mark made by human beings believed to have magical properties. This is a large concept, right, that covers a lot of different things. And please understand that sigils, magical marks, we have been using this since the dawn of time, since civilization, right? 250,000 years goes back to those cave paintings, and we have the same brains, right now as our ancestors did there in the caves, right? How we process and see the world. So I personally see sigils as a way to unlock the universe, to tap into the rhythm and the pattern of the world around us, and to participate in magic. Right? So it is something that's very much connected to you, who you are, what your experience is, and what you are trying to connect to with the world. And while we're on that, might as well talk a little bit about what is a symbol, right? Like, are these things the same? Well, they're very much related. A symbol, let's get to our next slide there. There we go. Symbols is basically a mark or a shape that represents something that's much more complex, profound, or even abstract than itself. Right, so you have something very simple, but there's a much bigger story. It might contain a hidden truth or meaning. They're often very simplified so that you could express a very complex idea in a very small way. Think about the stop sign, red octagon, right? It has this whole thing, you need to stop, you need to look in these directions, all of these things are happening, but it's simplified by that sign, that we understand that this symbol represents a larger idea. So keep that in mind. It's just kind of a short form for a larger idea. And while we're here, I also want to cover real quick little bit about the sigil witchery method. If you've read the book or have taken a workshop, you know this, but for those folks who might not be familiar, the sigil witchery method is a 4-part method, and only 3 of those parts are absolutely necessary. So, yay. The first one is your step 1 for all magic. Right? What is your problem? What is your goal? What is your issue? Right? What is it that you want to accomplish in your life, in your magical practice, in your path? Right? Really important. You just don't be like, I'll just go do a spell. Like, you really want to choose, what is the goal? What am I charging this thing to do? Step 2 is to brainstorm, which is to consider, what are the elements, what are those points that make up this idea, that help me visualize, to conceive what the solution looks like. Step 3 is design. This is where we get fancy. This is where we get creative. And step 4 is to apply and or acknowledge that. And this is the sort of unnecessary step, because really, once you finish your design and you're like, that's a good sigil, it has begun, right? It is already off into the world. Your brain is that powerful. Magic starts with you and then ebbs and flows from there. But because we are human beings, we do love the ritual. We do love the stuff. And so this is where we might carve things onto candles. This is where we might bake them into pies or into bread, into cookies. This is where we might paint them on our clothing or wear them as jewelry. This is where we might dance them. Right? So all of these different things, those is the putting them into action, putting them into space. And to give you a little sample, I'm going to show you a slide from one of my virtual workshops where we created the emergence sigil. So here you see, well, what is the idea? The concept is emergence. It was kind of re-emerging out into the world, kind of having that type of connection. And then we have our brainstormed list on here for what goes into it. As you see, stability, security, peace of mind, strength, all of those things. And then we have next to each of those words some symbols, some shapes, some marks that could represent those concepts. And then as we work through the design process, we put them all together into one finished sigil, which is the larger one that you see on the screen. That is the one we ended up going with today. Or not today, but in that particular moment. That was the sigil that was used in the workshop and solidified. So this is a process, again, that anybody can do. You can sit down and work with it. But I find that a lot of folks have difficulty going, but what shape do I use? What mark, what symbol? I don't know anything. Now, looking at these little shapes on the screen, right? You see a horizontal line, a square, a wavy line, an infinity symbol, an arrow. These are universal shapes and symbols, but their meaning is going to be very personal to each and every one of you. Your own experience, your background, your life, your traditions are going to influence how you see these basic shapes and symbols. And how this connects to what we're doing today, movement and meditation, is the really awesome thing about shapes and symbols and marks is that they each have energy. Right? They each have a flow, a movement to them. And if we start to look at these shapes and symbols and play with them on our bodies, draw with them, we start to feel the energy and we understand, this closed shape, this circle flows in a particular way. This jagged line, it feels kind of hard and sharp, right? Moving those things in a different way. So if we're able to look at these shapes and symbols down to how they feel, we do have a kind of a secret understanding of them, really getting into why they're used, why they're universal, why we find them again and again, and why they just keep coming back, why they're important. So I'm going to close this little part down. Yay. There I am. I'm bigger. Very good. So now, how we're going to get into this part here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in October, the Sigil Witchery Oracle is coming out, and I designed this because after teaching Sigil Witchery hundreds of times to thousands upon thousands of people, and I always like to problem solve and see how different people think, right? All of our brains are different. I am neurospicy, so I know my brain works very different than other people in some ways. And like, really, I find it fascinating to see how our brains work and how we connect. And as a teacher, I really want to make this material is as accessible and people as comfortable as possible of getting into this. So the oracle is basically, well, has many different uses, but it's one way of really connecting with these basic shape and symbols that might be included in the sigils that you make, and that you could use them to create a moving meditation. So what I'm going to show you today is not the finished oracle. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be so beautiful. It's going to be shiny and luminous. This is my little sample deck that I made to work with it and play with it. But what I want you to do is I'll take a breath for a moment. Let's take a nice deep breath in. Exhale. All right. And let us consider in our first shape a vertical line. All right. Vertical line is just a line that goes from north to south. And take a moment in your body. You can either stand up or you can do this from a seated position, right? From the base of your spine. Just want you to think, all right, if I was going to draw this line with my hand, right, through my body, up and down, right? Feel that motion. All right. Now, let's take that with a breath. So as I breathe in and move up, I'm going to think about pulling that breath in a vertical line. And I'm going to actually stand for y'all so you can see it on the whole body. All right, here we go. From the base to the top of the head. Deep breath in. And then exhale down. Again, deep breath from the base. And exhale down. And one more time. Deep breath in. And exhale. Right. So that vertical line, right, it has a sense of alertness to it. It is pulling us from the center up, connecting from the earth, right, from the earth to the sky. If you just stood, right, thinking about your feet in this moment, right, again, whether you're seated or you're standing with me right now, think about your feet as that connection to the earth and pulling up, reaching to the sky and becoming a vertical line. And relaxing down. Right? So if you're looking to become more alert, more connected, feeling your presence between the earth and the sky, taking a moment to think about that vertical line energy can wake you up with not a whole lot of complexity, right? You can do it, as I said, from a seated position. Just, here we go. Right. We can do the same thing with a horizontal line. Horizontal line. So horizontal line, it's not going this way, right? From north to south, it's going from east to west. So just kind of drawing that shape with your hands if you can, right? Your arms like this. You can see right now my arms are parallel to the earth. They're floating above it, right? Here. I'm expanding, I'm reaching out. And I can also do this with the breath where I breathe in and exhale out. Deep breath in and exhale out. And relax. Horizontal line tends to be very calming, right? You can think about it if you are laying down in bed, you can think about your whole body as becoming that line, again, parallel to the earth. As you're laying in bed, there's the earth, putting those two together. Now, what if we wanted to shake things up a little bit? How about a wavy line? All right, wavy lines. Got a little more flow, a little more wiggle, like a worm, right? This can have a little fun. Now, if you can't do a lot of movement, you can just think about, moving your hands, kind of feeling that flow. Now, if you go really fast, it's frenetic, right? Like, I'm a baby bird, I'm a baby bird. Now, I want you to think about just softly, like you're petting a cat, and a little bit of an undulation with your fingers, or to draw it in the air. And your undulating or your wavy line, it can move from north to south, or it can flow east to west. It can be a big movement, or it can just be a little bit of a movement. Or it could be your whole body. It all depends on your personal body, level of comfort, and don't do anything if it hurts, right? Take care of yourself. So we have that. Now, if you're like, that's a lot of big movement, maybe think about a little dot, right? A little dot there. Now, this dot has been enlarged for your pleasure because really the dot is very small. It's very condensed. It's a point. It's a period, right? This is where you're going to get to one of those power balls, right? Kind of think about right there in your solar plexus. So thinking about condensing energy down to a moment, finding that peace and serenity. So pulling energy in, condensing, and relax. And you can do this to any particular part, right? You can bring it to your heart energy here, pulling in. You can even grasp with your hands. Imagine kind of condensing down like you're making a diamond. If you push really, really hard, it might work. Pull in and relax. Into the center, pulling in, relax, or into the belly. In and relax. Right? Kind of fun, right? And you can also just do it with your hands, right? Think, I'm pulling into this point and relax. I'm pulling that power in. Like this is a power gesture. It can be an aggressive gesture, but it can be I'm pulling things in and now I release them. What if we were going to do a triangle? Right? Triangle can be very simple, right? Just made with the hands. It's a symbol of wisdom, right? Of growth. But I can also do it with my whole body. So if I extend my feet out so that they're standing pretty wide, or if I'm sitting, I can make my arms become my feet, right? Kind of putting on the desk. Imagine the energy flowing up into my head and back down and across. Flowing up and down. And if you are just thinking about that center space, that triangle form, right? You're going to be thinking about that space in between. So the triangle, even though it's kind of pointing up in those directions, it is truly encompassing this space in between, right? So if we're thinking about that, right? If you want to slow down, right? The yield symbol is an inverted triangle, right? Like so. So you could think about it as, all right, I need to slow down. I'm going to think about that base being up here, extending down to the center and up, over, and across. Right? Or you can just think about being right there with your hands. You can make the gesture. All of these things too, you can just draw them with your fingers. I will encourage you, the more that you can do it with your whole body, the more you're going to feel it if you're able to, right? So if your body's working fairly well, even on those rough mornings, right? Being able to just extend or just imagine that shape on your body, even if you can't move it physically so well, imagine that point in your head connecting out to the floor. It's a great way of doing it. We'll just do a couple more here and then we'll go into some questions. So simple one, kind of, right? The circle, right? So let's think about just drawing a circle, right? You can do this just on your hand, on your table in front of you, or you can take one arm and draw a whole circle. Right? And right now, this circle for me is going counterclockwise, which has extra witchy energy to it, right? If we're going counterclockwise, it is the Widdershins direction. It is going against the grain. It is a departure from the normal, or it could be the banishing direction. Depends on your tradition. Remember, different people believe different things because we all experience these things differently. But in that way, if I was thinking about it as banishing or departing from the normal, if I was going to return, I would go then clockwise. Letting that flow. You can do it with both arms and feel that circular energy. Now, this is very simple with drawing it with the arms or the hands. It can also be done with the feet. Didn't do this in my studio today, so you just imagine you can draw a circle with your feet. And if you are a more advanced movement person, you could, of course, do it with your chest or your hips, whether you want to do it horizontal, right, or vertical, moving those circles around. Right? You can also do a circle with your head. Be careful of your neck. Right? So putting those things together. Another shape I want to share with you is probably one of the simplest ones we've got, but it might seem complex, is the pentagram, right? The 5-pointed star. The human body is perfect for the 5-pointed star, right? So you see this? This is your head, arm, arm, leg, leg. As long as you're still intact like that, you're good. Otherwise, you can think of it to the points of your hips, right, and your shoulders. Here I am, again, seated or standing, expanding out, thinking about the energy moving through my body, becoming the star. And you can breathe from one direction, ideas, thinking about moving up on one hip, breathing in, exhale, breathe in, exhale, breathe in, exhale. So you feel that interlacing, right? And you feel that expansion and the illumination of the star in your own body by just expanding and stretching out your limbs and being like, here I am, I'm a star. Right? Extra fun that way. And let's see, for our last one here, we're going to do is a spiral, all right, which is love spirals. So spirals, they can spiral in or they can spiral out. And we have the Fibonacci sequence, we have the galaxies, we have the Nautilus shell. We see the spiral in ferns and seashells and everything else around us, right? It's sort of one of those building block energies that things are constantly expanding and condensing. So in imagining that spiral energy, you can start from the outside and move it into the center, condensing, or it can expand, getting bigger and bigger until you release. You can draw with just one arm. Here's my point, expanding out, growing and growing, or I can reverse from the outside, bringing it in to the center. And you should be able to feel that, right? Not worrying about, oh God, I got to copy what Tempest is doing. Once you're done, come back to this video, really play with this and think about not how it looks, but how does it feel on your body? And if you can't do, again, this big movement, you're like, oh, my shoulder's never going to do that. Take your hand, draw it on your hand, get into the center, expanding out. So that is just a few shapes that we've got 60 cards in the deck. They're not all shapes and symbols, but so much of this, right? These to me, these are the occult secrets of the universe that you have just gotten for free right here, right now. Isn't that amazing? So allow yourself to see that the mysteries, right, are sometimes just right there in front of us. And being able to play with these, my goal is with this deck is that people can get a better understanding of the shapes and marks and symbols that are already present in your life, but to also really consider what they mean for you. And the funny thing is, like, you could get to that brainstorming lesson and then pull out the deck and then throw cards out and be like, okay, well, this is spirals for this, and the heart is for that, and the moon is for this. Or you might realize once you get to that point, you go, no, I don't think the crescent means that, because you realize that you have developed a relationship with that shape and it doesn't connect to that word or idea. And it helps you get into what is working for you, right? So it can be a deck that helps you decide what to use, but it can also help you decide what not to use. because that's the thing about divination. It is about looking at patterns. It's about understanding our past, our present, our future, and helping us make good choices. And sometimes it's, no, this isn't the right choice. Now I feel more confidently what I do know is the right choice. I'm going to use this instead. And the really fun thing is that you can use this to create a daily meditation where maybe just for 5 minutes, you put on your favorite song and you explore 2 or 3 or 4, maybe 5 shapes, depending on how long your song is, and just play with it. Just, what does it mean to be a dot? Right? You might even like, I'm going to crunch myself down to a little ball, and now I'm going to expand and I'm going to think about more dots into the world and how I'm reaching out and connecting those ideas. Right? You can really have a lot of fun with it. And that's what really, to me, fosters magic, is allowing ourselves to be full of imagination and creativity, to play. And it really helps us visualize and see our world for really all the magic that there is out there. So with that, I'm going to check and see what we got for any questions going on here. Let's see. Yay, folks are having fun. That's great. Let's see. Philip says, my first spiritual mentor had a saying, magic is simply one's intentions put into motion with a little extra caffeine. I love that. Right? It definitely is. It's that it's the focus. It's that understanding that goes a little bit more. So Jessica asks, is the symbol list available somewhere online with the meaning? So the Sigil Witchery Oracle will be out October 8th. That whole thing comes with a booklet, which goes into the shapes that are included in there, as well as blank cards, so that you can put some of your first symbols and shapes or things that you are most familiar with. Because if I made a deck that was all the symbols and shapes in the world, you wouldn't be able to shuffle it. Right. So I pulled the ones I feel are most universal or most useful for magical practitioners, but with the nod that you can add your own to the deck, and then also log in the book the meanings for yourself. So let's see. I'm sorry, all moving so quickly. Heidi says the visual alchemy book has been helping me a lot. Thank you. It's so great. That's so much about getting over those fears. Like we're just put into this world with so many fears about making art. And again, it really is accessible to everyone. We need to break out of this mentality that art only belongs on walls and galleries and museums. Art is everywhere. We are a species that has thrived because of art and what art does for us in problem solving and creativity and in communication. Joelle asks, what's your favorite music to dance to? I love so much different music. We'd have to spend a few hours just talking about that. But if you go to my YouTube channel, the Witchual Workouts, and it is spelled Witchual, W-I-T-C-H-U-A-L. I have a selection of music that I enjoy dancing to and some of my favorite artists, so you can find those out in the videos. But I have a very large, crazy, eclectic collection from music all over the world. So it can be anywhere as popular as like Florence and the Machine to obscure Arabic music from, somewhere high up in the desert that's on like a little tiny CD that doesn't have a name anymore. So thank you all. Let's see. Laura says, it's funny, I always felt that this way comes to certain decks themselves. Some just feel right, and sometimes it's time to work with that one for a while. Others might not give me good readings for a bit. This could be my mind's excuse to take advantage of my collection. Yeah, right? Play around because that's what decks are, right? They're little tiny 2x4s of communication. And sometimes we need to change things up in there too. Oh, Mother Lode says a kitten. Oh, I wish I could see your kitten right now. Thank you all for being here. And let's see if there are any other questions. They're moving so fast. MT says totally new to sigils and such a whole way of learning, a whole body way. Yes, we are spirits that are embodied. We're having this human experience for a reason. So why not tap that into our experience and our path? And it truly does ground it. Heidi makes a good point. Yes, my partner Nathaniel Johnstone makes wonderful music, which you can find on Bandcamp. There is music that he's designed and I've also helped written for dancing too as well. So for folks, Nathaniel Johnstone, and that's with an E, on Bandcamp, you can find some of that. Some of the early albums are instrumental, and then there's a Deco Dance album, which goes with one of my instructional DVDs. Laura says, do you like to connect certain sigil movements in order to toward a certain goal? Yes, sometimes when I'm looking at a sigil, I feel like, ooh, we need to start at the base. So I might start with my feet and then move it up through my body until the last points. And really understand that when you are dancing a sigil, right, a whole complex sigil, that you don't take it so literally, right? Remember, we're tapping into the energy of that. So if like, oh, it's got 6 dots, dot, 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 dot. I mean, you could do that if you want to, but you can also kind of describe the space around those things. You don't have to do it very, very physically, very literally. Allow yourself to go with that. And, sometimes it's like, if it's a calming sigil, you might start at the top and move down, right? So play with it, and you can repeat it again and again and work with it and try some different variations. So you can, play, have fun. Renee says, I've been making sigils in a different way. I like your method better. Thank you. What I find what really kind of sets the sigil witchery method apart for a lot of people, and why it's easier, is because if you're used to sympathetic magic, which is candles, oils, spells, all those things, it's very similar to that, right? We're creating, it's a cumulative process so that you get to something that is that vision, right? We use candles and oils and herbs to tap into those mysteries of the universe, to help us visualize, to smell, to feel, to see these things. And so instead of destroying or destructing something, we're creating and we're adding to that vision. It truly is creating a key to the universe. Angela asks, do you ever dance first, sigil afterwards? Yes. Sometimes that does happen, right? Where you realize, oh, this particular movement can connect into something else. And so I start to see it, I draw it, I might paint it. So yeah, it's not always, you can enter in at what point is exciting for you. Lori says, I'll be adding a stick to my dance movements. You could do that too, right? A little wand stick. You can do a ribbon with that. You can do this with veil as well. So Barbara asks, should you dance the sigil as you're making it, incorporating the different elements as well as dancing? So you could do that too, right? Where you're like, that's a good way of problem solving for, different types of brains, is to be like, all right, I'm trying to do peace, but I don't want to draw a peace sign. What is peaceful movement to me? Peace might be a horizontal line. No, I think it's a wavy line, right? What is the energy behind that concept? So that's a good way to work out your brainstorming as well, and design that way too. So allow yourself to play with that. Do you ever feel like you're channeling spirits with your dancing? Yes. So not necessarily when I'm doing these sort of sigil movements particularly, but I do also a lot of ritual experiences where I am channeling and working with very specific entities, and they do have movements that they like. There are specific ones. So if you think about Hecate, right? So the idea of holding the torches. Right? There's this, here we are at the crossroads holding the torches, where if I'm invoking Pan, Pan is not going to be this very strong, quiet energy. Pan is getting those shoulders going and getting your butt wiggling and moving around, right? So you really get that sense of that too. So, but that goes into a whole other workshop. So, all right, y'all. Let me see. Do we have time for one last question? So Venus's body prayers, right? Yeah, right. This is a great thing to do in the morning, in the evening, or if you kind of slow down in the middle of the day, kind of get yourself back in line. So allow yourself, have fun, play. Again, think about how it feels versus more than how it looks. So I hope you all enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to Llewellyn for inviting me to ramble at you all about things I'm very excited about. And if you have questions, you can always go to my website, lauratempestzakroff.com. It's migrating at the moment, but probably by the time most other folks see this, by next week, you can subscribe to all the things and see all the stuff. So thank you all so much, and have fun.